Not all those who wander are lost. Well, if you are lost, please know that we have a place you can call home. Easy to find. Sakar.freeforms.net. You're always welcome for a nice discussion and shared love for all things in great in pop culture. Hello and welcome to the Review of Champions. It's time to talk about The Rings of Power, Episode 5, Partings. With me is Merv. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. And before we start, I would like to ask you all to hit that like and subscribe button and maybe join that forum, sakar.freeforums.net. It's a nice little community full of nice fans. We'd love it if you sign up and join the conversation. And if you want, you can be on the show as well. Uh, could use some people talking about Rings of Power. So join us. We're going to talk spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go check it out first and then come back to the video. Merv. Again, to me, an absolute banger of an episode. Um, let's just try to put some structure in it and do it storyline by storyline.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the Elrond Durin stuff.
Mhm.
Um, that table that cracked me open.
That was a great. I loved it. Whenever when he reveals that he just made it up because his wife. When he says Disa wanted a new table, I bust out laughing. That was hilarious to me.
Yeah,
And it was added. It added to it because he looked so emotional whenever he was explaining it. So he's such a better liar than his wife is, at least at this point.
mm,
Because Disa couldn't convince Elrond that nothing was going on. So I loved it. I love anything with Durin, and Elrond's great too, but like the dwarves especially, like I have a soft spot for them. So anything with Durin, like it's fantastic.
my wife, she likes to binge shows. Um, so she usually, when we do a review series, I watch the episodes alone. But I have convinced her to watch The Rings of Power along with me, and we both came to the conclusion that Durin is her favorite character in the whole show. He is
Um,
absolutely fantastic.
yeah, he's definitely probably easily top two or three for me for sure, if not one. He's great.
Okay, but in this storyline, Elrond is well. Basically forced by Gil-galad, the Elven King, to break his oath to Durin, and he has obviously a hard time doing that because basically Durin doesn't really trust Elrond to be his friend, and he senses that, I think. And then yeah, Elrond is basically saying to Durin at a certain moment that Durin holds the fate of the whole elven race in his own hands, in his hands. Um, because that's what Gil-galad has convinced Elrond of. But is that really true?
I hope so because I don't I don't know much of Gilgalad, but I feel like he dies during the well spoiler, but I don't get the sense that he's a bad guy in the lore.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I kind of am getting an inkling of that from this show. Like
Yeah,
maybe there's more. Obviously, we know like this in this episode they revealed that they knew the ulterior motive. They didn't tell Elrond about it. They sent him out there as kind of the you know the fishing bait, just to get more information on Dorn's mine and all that stuff. So we know that he's at least deceptive in some ways towards even Elrond, but I hope it doesn't go so far into that it's like really evil. You know what I mean? I don't want their king to be evil, and I don't think he is in the lore. So I really don't want that change to
yeah,
happen.
but you're right. I also got that vibe. That's why I asked you.
Yeah,
By the way, I love that the Balrog of Morgul had the same design and look like they did in the movies.
yeah,
So yeah, I know. they're skipping time in this story a lot, and they put things together in this story, and it's not really what Tolkien wrote and stuff like that. But they doing so much right. You
Yeah.
can't really fault them, and yeah, uh, they honor they honor the work of Tolkien, and maybe not in the way that a lot of how you say purists would like it to be, but come on, man, you gotta give him some leeway. I mean, like you say, you can't recast human characters every 2 episodes because you skip a few hundred years. So yeah. Okay, moving on. Um, the Harfoots, they were back, much to my enjoyment. There was not much going on with them. Well, they are taking a long journey. They're all over the place, literally. Um, and of course, we had that scene where the stranger saved Nori and others. Um, so, um, any thoughts on that storyline?
Yeah. First and foremost, sorry you cut out for a minute there. I thought maybe I lost you. But the first and foremost, I loved the traveling song. I thought it was great. Like a good song in these episodes, or a good theme music behind the backdrop or whatever, goes a long way towards me loving the episode. And that traveling song that I can't remember her name, Proud Polly, Potty, something like
Yeah,
that.
Polly, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the one that she was singing in the little montage showing that they're going along their route, which and then they show like one of their old wagons that kind of turned over in the mud. Maybe it's one of their left behind people, showing that they've made this trek before historically. Like, I just love that scene. I, yeah, there isn't much to take away from the episode other than clearly the stranger has powers or abilities. He displays an ability to create like a thunder wave to scare the wolves away, which bruises his arm, and then while he has his arm in a thing, it starts freezing, and it inadvertently freezes Nori, and then she kind of runs away scared. That was the only like minor issue I had, is like, so far through 5 episodes, she's been very patient and very trusting of this character and very understanding of everything. And for her to react like that felt like, would she if it was like one of the other characters, one of the other Harfoots, I would have understand it. It would have made total sense. But because it was her, it felt a little like, and I get it,
Yeah,
like she got hurt, but
but is to me, it felt like she is reacting instinctively and not thinking at that moment. She
that's fair.
all of a sudden uh, got scared, and like it's like um, I have a cat, and my cat trusts me and loves me, but at the moment I drop something, he still runs away
Mhm.
because at that moment it doesn't make sense to my
Right.
cat. Well, I'm not comparing the Harfoots to animals. Don't get me wrong. Before I get to have the internet on my back, I have a big back, so I can handle it. But
Mhm.
anyway, but it's more like an instinctive reaction, at least that felt to me. And I think it will be okay once she settles down and thinks about what happened.
Yeah, and that makes sense. We didn't get enough of a post scene for us to see that, but that would make total sense if that were the case. Like, I feel like she'd be the type to quick to make up, quick to realize like this was an accident and things like that. And I think it was a cool scene just to show that, like, we've seen him not get burnt by this fire, and then we see him control the lightning bugs. Now we're seeing all these different aspects to his abilities, I guess. I think everyone's making the safe assumption he's some kind of a wizard, whether he's a wizard we know or a wizard we don't know or something like that. Um, so it just seems like he's still finding himself, and I'm just wondering, when he finally does find himself, are we gonna like his character, or is he gonna reveal to be something worse? Or I mean, he seems good to me, so I really hope they don't take him in a direction I would hate. But well, yet to
Yeah.
be seen.
Well, to me, it's like, and I know a lot of people who are purists or will come at me for this, but I'm still hoping it's Gandalf. I know Gandalf is not supposed to appear until the third age. Uh, and this is set in the second age. I know, but it would make a little bit more sense because Gandalf has a deep love for the hobbits, and the Harfoots are basically, for a lack of, well, my English is not so well, so I'm gonna say the prequel of the hobbits. So that if this were to be Gandalf, his love for the hobbits would be explained actually, because they embraced him and helped him settle in Middle Earth, apparently. That would actually be nice. And, yeah.
Yeah, that would be fine. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
Yeah. Besides the obvious not following the lore and canon of Tolkien, I would be fine if it was Gandalf.
If they're already doing enough to, make the lore purists upset, then I say go for it. Why not?
Yeah.
But my initial reaction was that I kind of hoped it wasn't Gandalf, only because we've gotten 6 movies with Gandalf in it, and it'd be really cool to see one of these other characters that we don't really know that much about. But if it is Gandalf, that works perfectly fine too, and it fits with like you said, his kind of kinship with the hobbits, and like they all revere him pretty much, and then he respects them, and they go back a ways, so it would make sense. It's just I don't mind if that's it. I just
No, indeed.
leave myself open for something crazy, something different.
Yeah, indeed. So, moving on again. Let's go to the Tower Folk Adar storyline. Saving the best for last. I'm not gonna lie. The in this episode we see a group of humans moving away from the tower and joining Adar and in bowing to him, which actually turns out, well, we didn't get to see it, but I think it ends with a murder to show loyalty to Adar. The most interesting in this whole storyline to me was the fact that the human bowed to Adar and called him Sauron. And his reaction was a bit odd and ambiguous, because we still don't know whether Adar is Sauron, yes or no.
Yeah, I actually felt it was less ambiguous and more like he did not like being referred to as Sauron. So that started getting me thinking that he is not linked to Sauron, or at least maybe he was and now he isn't, and maybe it's one of those deals where I think at this point he feels to me like a different evil entity who may eventually conflict with Sauron, obviously, because it feels like he's in Mordor, which is eventually going to be Sauron's domain, or maybe he's even helping create Mordor, not intending it for it to eventually fall to Sauron. But I get the impression he did not like the Sauron comment. He generally showed a distaste for the humans at all. Like the second they showed up, he kind of turns his back and like looks disgusted. I don't know if he was just disgusted that they were actually bowing the knee. Maybe he thought they'd just run or die. But I thought for sure that was going to be a massacre, that he was just going to tell his orcs to feast, slaughter them all and eat them. There goes your supper kind of situation. But he didn't do that, but he might as well have, because it seemed like they weren't going to be much better off. But I'm really interested in that character getting, anytime that Adar character shows up, I'm full in. And I just like the design of the orcs in this. They feel different, but the same but different than Peter Jackson's ones. A little more like tribal, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but there was a powerful little scene with Adar and an orc, where Adar is standing in the sun, obviously, and he asks the orc, "How does it feel for you? Like burning?" And he said, "I know it's warmth." So um, Adar comes across to me like he's an elf that fell off the wagon. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yes, very much so. And I've watched a few videos on some characters in the lore that kind of fit this description. So I'm wondering if that's either where A, they got the inspiration, or B, if it's not going to be one of these characters in, I don't know where they show up in the timeline, but if they just pulled it out and put it in this part of it. Um, I thought it was interesting, and it also like he mentions he's gonna block out the sun, and as we can tell from, I mean, they don't obviously state it, but like in Mordor, that's kind of the situation. I don't know how they do it, whether it's some kind of sorcery or the Mount Doom eruption with all the
Hmm.
smoke. Maybe that's how they do it because they're killing all the trees, which all the orcs are susceptible to sunlight. You'd think the trees, as much as they hate the trees, they'd want that cover, that way they're not
Hmm.
constantly being burnt. So there's definitely a plan in works to, it seems like, block out the sun. However they're going to do it, I have no idea. But,
Yeah.
it seems
Right.
like that's his plan.
I'm going back to the Return of the King, where Sauron sends his clouds,
Hmm.
his darkness, as in front of the orc army he's sending, so they can move during the daylight as
Hmm.
well, because the sun is blocked. So it's definitely they're building up to Mordor and everything, and that the creation of Mordor is at hand,
Yeah.
and from there the darkness spreads all over the Middle Earth, and well, the
Yeah.
lost alliance of human and elves. Well, they are gonna stop, and Elendil's gonna cut off the finger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely is gonna be this story for the whole show, no doubt, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it all unfold.
And just a reminder too that that sword hilt is some kind of a key, they say, and their watchtower is some sort of old Sauron or Morgoth temple or something. There's like
Mhm.
stone carvings that depict what looks like Sauron. I don't. Sauron and Morgoth look the same because I think the Peter Jackson maybe took the Morgoth's appearance and showed Sauron in that like armor with like the long mask and that sort of thing. So I don't know if it's one or the other. I'm just going to assume it's Sauron, but it shows like they mentioned that maybe to enslave mankind, and it almost looks like in the stone like it was like some kind of a sacrifice, like there was a man laying down and that the dagger was like piercing him. So I don't know if it's some kind of an old temple or if Adar needs that to do something, or my thought was if he's not with Sauron, maybe he's trying to prevent that from happening. It
Or
doesn't mean he's good, just that he's
or
a different.
he's trying to bring about the arrival of Sauron.
Right, right, yeah, something like that. Yeah. So that dagger in that place seem important to Adar's goal, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to the last storyline. No, first we have the arrival of a new group of people who investigate the landing site for the stranger grabbing back. Um, I really couldn't make heads or tails of it so far.
Yeah, they don't really give us much that I could tell. I mean, I watched it twice. They're only in that one scene. They seem like elves, but they also seem evil. So maybe more dark elves or something akin to that. They
Mhm.
seem like they're wearing robes of some religious nature, I would
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
So maybe it's like a cult of Sauron or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just where my first instincts go. But again, it's only like a 2-minute scene, so there's
yeah.
not much to make out.
No, I don't. I don't think there's any need to discuss it further. But I just want to mention it that we didn't miss it. So,
Yep.
moving on to the Numenor,
Mhm.
splendid, beautiful, gorgeous, epic-looking Numenor. Um, Galadriel she convinces Halbrand in the end to sit on a horse and become the king he's supposed to be. Although it's heavily hinted that he shouldn't be king because he did something bad in the past. And of course we have two sons, one of the Chancellor and one of Elendil, being on a ship for two different reasons, destroying one or two in the process, because in the end they're only traveling with 3 ships towards Middle Earth. Well, the look and feel of Numenor is amazing. I didn't think we said enough about that last week, but let's bring it back to the table here. I absolutely adore the way Numenor looks. It's gorgeous.
Yep.
And,
yeah, it's paradise.
Yeah. And actually, the storyline to me is the most interesting. I love the training scene where they supposed to hit Galadriel, and then in the end I liked it that they actually, one of the little boys managed to make make her bleed. I should say.
Arm. Yeah.
At least there was a scratch on her arm, so she's not infallible or like she is unbeatable. No, it took a lot of effort with a lot of people, but in the end, they got her, which I liked actually. So, but I love that fight scene where she shows off her skills. I know it got a lot of people angry again because this is not the Galadriel we know from Lord of the Rings. Sorry. What do you think?
Yeah, I love Numenor as a setting. Just everything, the architecture, the design of the cities. It feels like a proper peak of human accomplishment at this point. You know what I mean? Like it definitely feels like it's far more advanced than anything in Middle Earth proper. Like as far as the humans go, the elves are crazy advanced, but I love it. I loved Pharazôn is the vice president of this nation. That's his name. I loved the actor is doing a great job of coming across as both warm-hearted and like a kindly older man, and then whenever he flips that switch, it's just like, I don't know if he turns his head down or what, but like you can see that sinister side to him. The one that's like plotting Numenor to continue to dominate Middle Earth now that they've mastered success here. His plan is to not conquer Middle Earth, but like basically maintain that superpower feeling, like we're the best, elves are going to bow down to us, that sort of thing. I think he's doing great. I love Elendil as well. You can definitely see the shades of where Aragorn comes from. Like this is his ancestor, so it's very similar character type. Contrast, Isildur, you get a lot of Isildur in this episode, and I liked that because I feel like we didn't get as much of him up to this point. And now it feels like he's going to be a proper, if not main character, like very high supporting for the moment. But you see his faults. He comes across as rather spoiled, but ultimately like good-hearted, but also like he has a lot of flaws, and they're not very well hidden. But there's one scene in particular where I bust out laughing whenever his friend punches him twice.
Yeah.
Whenever he's like, go ahead and hit me, and it's like, 3 times. It's like, how about 2? And then you can see the guy like accepts 2, and he's like, no, wait a minute, and then he punches him in the head and then the gut, and he's just like, that felt like 3.
Yeah.
So I bust out laughing there.
Well, okay, let's unpack a little bit thing here.
Yeah.
To me, Isildur, of course, he's the one that cuts the finger of Sauron's hand, taking the ring, defeating Sauron basically. But he just gets taken by the ring, and then the ring betrays Isildur because he's not strong enough to destroy the ring there and then in Mount Doom, right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
basically what we saw. Uh, to me, I think they're doing an excellent job of portraying Isildur that he has flaws, character flaws, and he is looking sometimes for the easy route. And he's not strong enough to do the work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which actually fits what happens to him later in his life. I think they're doing an excellent job in setting this character up.
Mm-hmm.
The writing for his character is excellent. It fits what happens to him. Do you agree?
I do. Yeah, I think he's very well fleshed out for the type of character that you're expecting to see later, but also like you can see. I mean, I get the feeling like I'm gonna kind of like him, despite his flaws. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's charming and he has enough of his dad's character in him
Yeah.
that you can see that aspect of him, but you can also see like where he leans on nepotism and has expectations that he probably doesn't deserve. Like he thinks he's higher than he really deserves to be at this point. It feels like it.
Yeah. That's why it was very funny. His father puts him with the horse master, and
Yeah.
that he has to sweep the stables. So in a boat, so that gotta
Yeah.
stink. So, but anyway, no, but I think it's very well. The writing in the show is excellent. Actually, I know there's a lot of complaining that they move around Tolkien stuff, but I think we should also move beyond that. We know this is happening, and we know why, and just let it go and enjoy what they're really doing. What they're doing is great.
Yeah. I mean, you could. It'd be hard to tell me this wasn't Tolkien, and because it would be so heavily inspired by it, but it doesn't. If the problem is that the show's writing doesn't match Tolkien's writing, well, that's fine. Tolkien's one of the greatest writers ever. Like Peter Jackson's movies didn't match Tolkien's writing either, but they were still great.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing, and whether it's spot on or not, it's a great show for me. I'm loving every episode of it.
By the way, the Tolkien estate is involved with this show. Huh? There's a Sebastian Tolkien, I think. It's one of the first names in the credits.
Okay.
Once you see. By the way, shout out for the opening credits. I absolutely adore that little sequence. The sand on the drum.
Mm-hmm.
That I think I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. Because how you make credits for a show like this? Well,
yeah.
Well, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, and obviously the beginning and the end credits. Well, the beginning always has the same song, but the end credits they switch out the music sometimes depending on the episode. The music in this show has been fantastic. I have nothing but praise for the soundtrack of this. I've actually listened to it outside of watching the show. I'm sitting here at my computer and I just put like the Khazad Doom theme song on. Like start getting a little pumped up, I don't know. It's great. It always sounds great, and it also sounded great in the movies. You know what I mean? It's just the soundtrack fits the situation so well.
Absolutely. Well, we discussed all the storylines. I think we unpacked everything. So do we bother with a rating? Because I know what we're going to rate it both, but I'm still going to ask you. Well, let's rate it. Merv, this week's episode, what number would you give this week's episode out of 10?
Man, I gotta go 10 out of 10. And I'll tell you what, the icing on the cake was that Harfoot song, the traveling song. You put one real good song or theme track in there, and it's a 10. It's going to be a 10, you know, unless everything else sucks. But so far, nothing else has sucked.
No, no. I'm sorry. I don't want to come across as a major fanboy, but I just am. I'm also going for a 10 out of 10. This show is absolutely epic, and if they keep this level of quality up for the course of this season, but all the other seasons that are coming, oh my God, I can't wait.
Right.
If they drop this on DVD, I will definitely go and buy it. It's something I need to have in my collection. So I already have decided, and yeah. If you have any comments, please put them in the comment section. And well, if you want to school us on Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, well, join the board and join the show. We would love to have a Tolkien purist on the show, saying we're wrong, because we need to balance things out. Two fanboys signing out. Before we end, I would like to ask you all to hit that subscribe button, notification bell on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Like our Facebook page. Join the forum on Sakar. That way you will never miss us, and we won't have to miss you. Bye.